Welcome, welcome, welcome to Clever, 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 Orbit, Orbits, Orbits. I am Lewis, Brandmeier. Someone stop me.
Stop it.
Okay, great. And I'm here with Tyler Brandmeier, the plucky comedic relief, and
yeah, sure.
And Richard Futrell.
Good evening.
Who is not the same kind of plucky comedy relief. I don't know if I'm using the right phrase there. Comedy relief. Tyler, what's the right phrase?
The right phrase is humoridian.
That is also false. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Clever Orbits, as I said. Today we're talking about the third short trek, The Brightest Star, which title I haven't actually analyzed. Opening salvo, I think it's a great backstory for Saru. I think his free thinking and his skepticism, his curiosity and his wanderlust are really on vivid, beautiful display here. There's great music. That is classic Trek, this curiosity and the willingness to get uncomfortable in the process of learning, exploring, and discovering, and even making hard choices and sacrificing in order to do that. That's something that's, endemic to humans. And I really like that we do that. I like that we have that in our makeup. And so it's his humanity, so to speak, that's on display. He is one of those characters like Seven of Nine, Data, Odo, and the Doctor, and to Paul, to, I guess, a lesser kind of extent, who is an outsider. And what's interesting in Discovery is that Shaniqua Martin Green, the main character, is really an outsider as well when she starts off. So we kind of have two separate types of outsiders, and he didn't really get fleshed out in the first season, but now he does. And, man, it's an interesting backstory for him. Like, it really adds depth. It's interesting how his character, when you meet him in the pilot, he's dealing with aeons of, or eons, whatever. Aeon is the ship, right? So eons of instinct in order to just be on the ship as it explores. And his innate tendencies show themselves in that very first Battle of the Binary Stars episode as like cautiousness. And I mean, it's a wonder that he's advanced through Starfleet with that profile, with that personality profile, that cluster of traits. And like, it's funny also, given the fact that his fundamental motivation for entering Starfleet and for leaving, what was the planet called?
Kaminar. Yeah,
like, so he leaves the planet Caviar, and he's
accurate.
Because they're eating fish or kelp. They're eating kelp because they're being eaten.
Help me.
The what?
Oh no, nothing important.
Anyway,
turn the digital recording over.
Okay, so he's the most inquisitive member of his species. He's the only one of that race who we've ever seen up until this episode, and it takes everything that he is to manage his own instincts in the face of this new situation. So the fact that he does so to any extent is so laudable, like and so really radical and cool. And the extent to which we see him scared, that's actually really trivial compared to how much he's fighting against being scared. So one reviewer wrote how they wanted to rewatch the whole first season from this perspective. Saru doesn't seem to really age, but then that's a function of the fact that this was made afterwards. And so he can't really look younger. There's some things that are interesting to talk about, like this sort of brutal convenience of the Baul harvesting the Kelpians, which is this really disturbing sort of thing. I mean, and it's disturbing in a muted kind of 2001: A Space Odyssey way, which I think they were actually referencing, except the monolith is upside down, and it's more like the sword of Damocles hanging over people right? It's like this horrific thing that's about to happen. It's always just about to happen. And so for the sake of the great balance. And that's another classic Trekkian theme, is the fact that, hey, we're here to question that perceived notions and opinions with our upbringing and our society have equipped us in order to figure out what's actually really going on, and also to expand our knowledge of what is. And that's like classically, philosophically grounded intentions, the ones that I've subscribed to for most of my life, like hope is stronger than fear, and I went towards it. It's a decent sort of thing, except it's a bit trite and vague. It's like hope is better than fear. Well, great. I mean, duh. It feels better. It's nice. And I mean, maybe there's some stuff you can add to that to make that seem less like just something a writer pulled from his ass in order to make this thing sound less stupid. Yeah, this great balance thing is really stupid. I did like the appearance of Lieutenant Georgiou. And my curiosity is, like, who is Saru telling this story to? And I was thinking, well, maybe it was Georgiou. Maybe not. I don't know. That's my opening salvo. I appreciate it so far. I don't think it's the best episode in the toolbox, but I think it's a good one and maybe a great one. But it also feels a little short to be a great one somehow. Like this, I'm still kind of getting used to this new format. So anyway, that's me. Richard, what did you think?
Yeah, so the word for this episode is dark. Like, there's this line, when my people look up at the stars, they see only death and they welcome it. I can't imagine anything more heavy metal to say, man. That was pretty cool. And also the whole idea that their civilization is based around them being farmed by this unseen force that, I guess it's eating them. We don't actually know that. Maybe it's transporting them to a world of wonderful pleasure, but that seems kind of unlikely. So this is like really messed up. And what this episode actually reminds me of a lot is this. Have you ever read the book Watership Down?
I've heard of it. It's about the rabbits, right?
Yeah, it's about some rabbits that are like trying to escape from one rabbit hole to get to another one. And one of the bizarre things they encounter on this journey is they discover this warren of rabbits, which, unlike any other rabbits, have high culture, and they tell jokes and laugh, and they make statues out of stone, and the main characters don't understand any of this. They think it's just weird. And these rabbits are also fed by a local farmer, and that sort of gives rise to their civilization. But there's this really twisted secret, which is that the farmer is actually feeding the rabbits so that he can periodically come and kill some of them and farm them for their meat. And this whole civilization they've developed is actually just sort of papering over their sort of Stockholm syndrome about being farmed. It's all just this sort of way, it's this defense mechanism against this horrifying truth that they live in. Anyway, the Kelpian society reminded me of that. It's this whole set of mythologies, which is just covering up, papering over the fact that you are being consumed. And that's pretty scary. And so I'm glad we got out of this. On the other hand, though, I got to go ahead.
It makes the episode actually really relevant and interesting. So I was talking about vaccination and this whole notion of the powers that be and controlling influences in different sectors of industry using their power to actually manipulate and dominate human individuals. And this episode then becomes a really great analog for modern politics. Like, people are being systematically held down, confused, tortured, manipulated, and they don't know it, and they believe it, and they think that it's good.
Yeah, I mean, like, how much of your culture, how much of the things you believe are actually lies to distract you from the fact that you are being farmed? That's an interesting question, which we'll be getting to when we cover The Matrix in upcoming episodes. For now, I want to, just let's from another perspective, though. So I think like something that Star Trek could do better is allowing the people who have sort of anti-Trekkian philosophies to make strong arguments. And so let's think about this notion of the balance, which pretty much just played as like a dumb idea in this episode. Let's take that seriously for a second. Presumably the balance, what could that mean? Population control is a big thing. If the Kelpians really are this prey species, Well, what happens when prey species are deprived of their predators? What you get is things like rabbits overrunning Australia, destroying the ecosystem. So it could be that, in fact, they do need to sacrifice themselves periodically for the good of the ecosystem and sustainability. Okay. I mean, the Star Trek ethos is that it's always good to question the balance and always good to fly into the stars. You know, here's the question, has that actually worked out well? I guess the role of Star Trek is to optimistically say yes and unapologetically say yes to that. To do that, I'd like Star Trek to take the detractors more seriously so they can make a really good argument. That's my second piece on this.
Well, these are good opening revolutions. What did you think of it, Tyler?
It was very short.
Well, God bless you, Tyler.
It's not a Trek episode. It's not very long. It's too short.
You think it's not long enough to be one? Not long enough to be one?
It has to explore Saru far more than it actually did. He got about 10 minutes. The part of the episode where Lieutenant George Zhao discovers him and offers him a chance to leave his then pre-industrialist society was hair-raising and pretty cool, and it makes me want to go back and watch the first season from that perspective, seeing Saru. I can't go back home ever again because of the Prime Directive. So I choose to leave.
Some people made a stink about, like, we are a prey species, right? And maybe, I mean, and then there's a big deal made about him being able to run really fast and really far. Like, the only way that I could imagine that really working with this Baul is if maybe they were the prey species on a planet, and then the Baul come in and they realize, oh, look at this natural resource. They kill off the predator and they become the predator, right? So that would explain why the Kelpians still had these things, these instincts and these features that seem to suggest they actually will run from predators rather than just being harvested.
So like one of the main ways in evolution that you can tell a predator species from a prey species is actually in the positioning of the eyes. So in predator species, the eyes are in the front because the main thing the animal is chasing. And in prey species, the eyes are often to the side. If you think about like rabbits and most birds, the eyes are to the side so that you can see any possible predators. So the Kelpians have their eyes in the front. Maybe they used to be the predators and recently they became the prey because of this Baul thing. And that's maybe what gives them the spirit to get out of this situation.
Repeat that. So he's developed something recently that inspires him to get out of the situation? I'm not sure I understand.
If you look at these creatures, they're like bipedal. They clearly have, a lot of environment manipulating appendages, hands and fingers. Their eyes are in the front. They're clearly biologically a predator species according to everything we know about evolutionary biology, at least as it goes on Earth.
Oh, interesting. So you're arguing that the Kelpians are actually a predator species.
They must recently have converted. They must recently have been domesticated, I guess.
Huh. Well, then what's the threat ganglia about?
I don't know.
Maybe they were subject to genetic modification of some sort.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of. Is like maybe they were their whole species. And what did the Baul use them for? I mean, like rugs?
Maybe they're another civilization like the Federation, and they're taking them on space voyages.
Oh, interesting.
Just to make them good. They just do it in a creepy way.
I do like this hanging ship thing. That was so well done. That like creepy ship with the red light and the black color. Yeah. Except the fact that a piece of it might fall off, that kind of doesn't make sense to me. Tyler,
maybe they need the Kelpians. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Tyler had something. I wasn't sure.
I was going to say, I wonder how the Kelpians use each piece of technology before they discard it. To ease the pain of Varahai, was it? That was how it was said, I believe.
Oh, yeah, there's some kind of painful experience that they have. That's right.
That was really vague. But, I wonder if anyone else had any idea similar to what Saru had. They had to have. But we don't know how long the Baul have been hovering. So we don't really see much. This episode was too short. Did I say that? I'm going to say it again. It was very short.
Yeah, you know what that thing also reminds me of is The Arrival. Did you guys see The Arrival?
Yeah. Jeremy Renner, Amy Adams. A very intelligent take on an alien species landing on Earth and initiating first contact. Yes.
Thank you for the plot summary. Yes, exactly.
IMDb.
Did you just read off of IMDb?
No, it was actually
God.
from memory.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Even better. So, it's just that this species is actually menacing, whereas in that film, it only appeared to be menacing. It was a decent episode. It was okay. It wasn't the best. Let's see. What else do I have? I'm clear. It's a through and through. I'm clear. Except for the music. The music actually was really disturbing and hopeful at the same time. And then also not innovative when they reused the Star Trek stuff. But whatever. I mean, they're basically saying Saru is Star Trek. Saru is the representation of what's good in Star Trek. Great. Okay. We fight our own innate fears. Actually, no. Now that I'm seeing it, this is a really great parable for the modern age. We have to fight our modern fears and misconceptions in order to advance the Star Trek realm where we're actually able to explore space and the universe and join in a vast federation of planets. Like, we've got to evolve past these crazy notions we have about the great balance. Namely, I don't know, the great balance of the scales of justice held by the Supreme Court. I don't know. The metaphor gets a little confused there, but yeah. So going back to the original sort of through line we had.
I mean, isn't the Federation implicitly saying the great balance is good by not liberating these creatures from this situation?
They are, actually. They're not making any real comment. And it was interesting to me, like, you remember that episode Pen Pal where Data's writing to this girl who's like going to die from a volcano and stuff?
Isn't it?
Yeah, and they just let her die. And they have this whole
100 years after this. They've become more hard-hearted over 100 years.
Well, they also become more we've argued before that in the 24th century they're more Star Trekian than actually in the 23rd. In the 23rd they're still quite human.
People are always just getting more and more Star Trekian. It's like an asymptotic limit of infinite Star Trekiness in the future.
Until they're so Star Trekky that they are all artificial intelligences, or what's her name? Funny Face?
Cybernetic organisms that are all linked together.
Here we go. Here we go with the Borg again.
Don't spoil that. Don't spoil that. We're holding that back till SDLV.
Okay.
Although anybody who has half a brain and who's willing to listen to 20 hours of us talking can figure it out for themselves from the Borg episodes. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to listen to us talk for 20 hours, and I know a number of people who would be, especially if there was nothing else to listen to. But anyway, I keep like sideways bad-mouthing us. Clever Orbits is great, guys. I love you guys. We're a good team. So this episode, concluding thoughts. I give it a 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say 8. That sounds about right.
I can't wait, Tyler. I can't wait.
2 period short period. Everyone else can give it a number.
That's not a rating.
It's not an episode.
So we should let's talk about,
it's a series of scenes.
Let's talk about this. Let's have a conversation about this.
Okay, let's do it.
What is good and bad about this format? Right? I mean, like I like that they're concentrating on character pieces, basically, except Kraft we never see again, ever, anywhere.
I don't know. It's possibly my own hang-up and my own concept of a Trek episode, considering every other Trek episode from most series have been
at least 42 minutes.
About 42 minutes average, yeah.
Maybe to 50 if you're in an original series, yeah.
I think it just sort of left me wanting when I hadn't finished my sandwich before the moral argument presented itself. I wasn't even finished the sandwich before the episode even ended, so I'm unsatisfied. I give it an unsatisfactory.
You have such a salt-of-the-earth perspective on this thing, man.
I like to think I'm Pepper. Pepper of the wind.
So Richard, do you have any pros and cons for this format?
It keeps the hype alive. I think that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, it keeps people subscribed.
There's no doubt there. I agree with that.
It keeps people subscribed to All Access, and they probably noticed that everyone unsubscribed once Discovery ended.
Yeah.
True, yeah.
Got to keep that drip just to keep the hardcore people signed up. Well, Clever Orbits is signed up.
They won. They have defeated us.
We're actually being farmed for money by CBS All Access in return for 22-minute short clips that have elusive references to Star Trek.
All right. Well, I think it's okay. You're right. It's not full Star Trek. It's not full tilt boogie with Star Trek. It's just kind of like, all right, we're kind of going to give you something. And the production quality is decent. The writing is decent, given the shortened form. But yeah, it's not a full episode. And if one wanted to argue, like Tyler does, that we are being shortchanged, I could understand that, even if I don't personally agree with it.
Yeah, shortchanged, yeah.
I mean, the thing about these is that if this plot line had been weaved into an episode where there was a larger thing, then it would feel okay, right? Because it would be a B plot.
Yeah, if the plot was like Saru is, trapped in prison or something, and he has to tell his cellmate his life story or something, then it would work.
And he has to escape.
Discovery trying to save him from prison, that would be pretty good.
Well, the prison is the next one. That's mud. Yeah.
Well, you can have 2 prison episodes, and then the prison that he's in would mirror like the mental prison that he was in when he was living on Kelpinar or whatever the planet is.
Oh, interesting. Kelpinar?
No,
yeah.
it's caviar. It's Canamove.
Camino.
Caviar. It's
yes,
called
Camino.
caviar.
Kelpo.
Okay, we're done here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to have to take the microphone away from these children.
Kelpopia.
And thank you so much for listening. No, you guys aren't children. I'm just kidding. But, yeah, thank you for listening.
Wow.
definitely feel free to like, subscribe, and share. And if you'd like to make a visit to Keltopia.
Ooh, Kelpromulus.
Okay, I'm going to give you one. Perth.
Prime.
Perth.
Unimatrix Kelpia 1.